Hello everybody, today we're going to talk about AMD's new 23.4.1 drivers. These are Microsoft certified, stable and safe to use. So no reason why you shouldn't download and install them if you're an AMD user. Now rather than just talk about how stable these drivers are, we're going to talk about what kind of graphics cards you need to run modern games or reasonably recent games. Bear in mind that COVID prevented a lot of releases for the last couple of years, so we've had a bit of a drought of really good games in the last couple of years because of that. But we're going to go to some old favourite games like Cyberpunk, Bannerlord, X4, that kind of thing, and we're just going to show you exactly what they look like on my system using the 23.4.1 drivers. So let's get into it. First of all, the videos you're looking at now, these are all filmed in 2K resolution. Why 2K? Well, 2K because 2K is the new sweet spot for gaming. It used to be 1080p, now it's 1440p. That's 2K. 2K resolution will run over 60 frames per second in 80% of games on cards like mine. Now my card is only a middle of the range card. It's a 5600 XT, a relatively old card, and I'm getting over 60 frames per second in the games you're looking at now, with the exception of Cyberpunk and I think Come Deliverance, which both drop below 60 frames per second in some points. So I'm not talking of anything expensive here. We're talking of the relatively cheap end of the market or the middle end of the market, and they will run these games perfectly fine. You may have trouble streaming, but remember, I recorded these videos on that card on this system. So recording game footage on these cards is not a problem either. So you don't need a big expensive card to do what I'm doing. You can do it on one of the 600 range from AMD with no issues. Now what about the colouring and stuff like that? Well, the colours of what you see in the game, or what I see in the game, are in the video. I haven't tweaked the colours at all. None of this tweaking the brightness of the colours to make it look more vivid. I haven't done any of that. What you see on the screen is what I see on the screen. Now because I've recorded the game footage in 4K, or in 2K should I say, I'm going to make this video in 2K as well. Now what you see when you see my face, that's a 4K video. When you see the game footage, that's a 2K video. It's exactly 2K. If you look at this on a 2K monitor, it should look exactly like it looks like on mine, hopefully without any of the processing changing it. That's the idea. 2K recorded, 2K video, 2K uploaded. You get the idea. Now, in most of these videos, I was getting over 60 frames per second. No problems whatsoever. Sometimes it was 80, sometimes it was 90, and I got that whilst recording the footage for you. The only time I got a crash was when I was running Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk itself was kind of like, it's a bit dodgy anyway most of the time. For some reason the Project Red games do seem a bit buggy. At least I found them to be a bit buggy. But everything else is running absolutely fine on 23.4.1. A mediocre card like mine, running 1440p 2K resolutions at these kind of frame rates is nothing to be sniffed at. It means we can get graphics cards fairly cheaply that do the job we need it to do without breaking the bank. And I would say that's a good thing. Although I still would like a 700 card, since I wouldn't really need one just to play games. I would suggest if you are looking for a graphics card, one of the ones with a decent amount of RAM on it would be a good idea these days, because the more RAM you've got on the graphics card, the less buffering has to go between system RAM and your graphics card, and that helps. Now graphics usually take up quite a lot of space. Also you get new features on the graphics card. The way they process lighting and the graphics themselves could change the look of a game. Mine's a 5600 XT card, so it's an older generation card. Newer generation cards might have things like ray tracing and things like that. Mine doesn't have that, so you won't see that feature on mine. But on the other hand, mine is running at 2K quite smoothly. Still looks really good for what it is, and it won't break the bank when you're actually using it either. Now when it comes to games like X4, it is silky smooth, not an issue whatsoever. Bannerlord's exactly the same. I've had massive battles on Bannerlords with no issues at all. Silky smooth again. So it's literally hundreds of men on the screen at once, all fighting on. Well, you've seen it for yourself anyway. I might have recorded them in 1080p, but the battles were smooth. In this video, you're seeing it in 2K, 1440p. Just me running around to demonstrate what it looks like, basically. So if you if you go to see some of the other games like Skyrim, you'll see that. I mean, that is really capped at 60 frames per second, and it doesn't matter what resolution you put it in. I found it stays at 60 frames per second even when I'm recording this video, so that's as good as it's going to get. And as for the rest of the videos, it's exactly the same story. You can do Kingdom Come Deliverance drops down below 60 frames per second, but it looks really good. It's one of those games that always does look good. In the past, you've had other games that have kind of like broken the mould. Kingdom Come Deliverance was one of them. So that's a game I look for when I'm trying to find something that would give me an indication of how well a card does. Now the software you get with AMD for recording these videos, because I'm just using the driver software you can see on screen to record most of the game footage, produces great quality considering once you start processing the video quality or you start sticking it through software, the quality drops a little bit, so you might see a slight drop off. But generally speaking, it's good quality footage for a game. In 2K, it's going to look quite good as well. And when you're playing strategy games, it's really good. Now, the actual AMD drivers, when they're crashing out, you can't really talk about these things because you're too busy focusing on bugs. But when they are stable and they are working and you are able to start using them properly, that's when we can have these conversations like I'm having now. Now, if you look at the screen here, you've got all kinds of footage. You can see the games up. Well, you can't. Well, maybe you can. It says X-Universe, Elder Scrolls, Cyberpunk, Kingdom Come, Mountain Blade. All games I've tried. I was going to try BattleTech, but you've seen me doing loads of those videos recently, so I've decided not to do that one today. But everything else has been running absolutely great. There's no reason why the 23.4.1 driver shouldn't be installed, and there's no reason why you need to go out and buy a big expensive graphics card just to get over 60 frames per second these days, because the middle of the range cards are good enough. Now, if you want to see what prices are, I won't mention the prices here because they might change in a week. But you look up the 6600 cards, 6600 XTs. Look at the prices of them. If you're after a new graphics card, you want to know one that will run games well, start there. See you in the next one, and let us know if you have any trouble with the drivers. Mine's been fine so far, no black screens, nothing. See you in the next one.